Hello people, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. Also welcome to a brand new book recommendations video in which I share with you my top 10 short story collections. Whenever I've been asked the question how to get out of a reading slump, my answer has always included read short stories. So perhaps this list of short story collections could also classify as reading slump book recommendations for you. But I do know that these short story collections are some of the best that I've ever read, and it's a shame that I haven't spoken about these more on here. That changes today. I think that short stories are one of the more difficult formats to write in because of how much you have to pack into in just a few pages. It has to have an introduction to the plot and the characters, the middle with plot and character development, and an ending and a climax which brings the story to a satisfying end. And even if it doesn't use the 3-act structure, it just has a short time to make its point. And since there's so much to be done in this small period of time, it takes more creativity and effort to lay it out satisfactorily. I mean, you've got to make it compact, but you've also got to make it artistic enough for it to touch the reader's heart. Short story writers, in my opinion, are able to play around with so many topics, even if the theme were to be common. And given that they are short and you can choose to move away from the book after you finish a story without feeling like you're not reading as much as you would like to, they are a great way for you to help you if you are in a reading slump. At least they've been of great help to me. And that's why I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, and I now feel like I've read enough short story collections to make a full video out of it. So without any further ado, let's dive right into this video and let me share with you 10 of my favorite short story collections of all time. First up is The Doll and Other Short Stories by Daphne du Maurier. The only other Daphne du Maurier book that I'd read before reading this one was Rebecca, and I thought that it was creepily gothic and absolutely brilliant in so many ways. It chilled me to my bone. But when I went into this collection, I didn't know what to expect. What I found, however, was some of the most mind-bending short stories in so many ways, which elevated Daphne du Maurier to my favorite authors list almost instantly. And all of these stories send a chill down your spine, some in the creepy horror kind of way, some in the oh that's so true but I've had enough kind of way, and some others in the I don't relate but I can feel the chills kind of way. I mean, it's eerie how du Maurier takes everyday experiences and takes them to the level where you feel like you are getting a class from a psychology professor, because you know, fiction can be a great teacher and du Maurier is a master of that great teaching skill. I would highly recommend this collection if you don't mind getting uncomfortable both physically and emotionally. Next is The Loneliness of Hira Barua by Aruba Patangia Kalita, and this is a collection of short stories set in Assam and follows Assamese women domestically as well as in the larger picture of society, and it is a fantastic glimpse into the lives that keep getting sidetracked and overlooked. Poetry and writing can come in different ways, of which the roundabout way is the most frustrating for a reader, but when it ends up being impactful, I think that it becomes a minor issue and one that can be ignored. And so it is with The Loneliness of Hira Barua, which is in the end a stark, moving, honest collection that is a reflection of reality. This is one that I would definitely recommend if you are looking for a translation or a short story collection or a book by an Indian author. Next is Manto Selected Short Stories by Saadat Hasan Manto and translated from Urdu to English by Atish Taseer. I read this book in 2021 and I was absolutely heartbroken by the time I finished the first story. And this was when I realized why Saadat Hasan Manto is considered one of the best short story writers. Plus, Atish Taseer has done a fantastic job in translating these short stories and keeping their soul intact. Some of the stories in this collection are set during and around the partition, and they contain a world of depth and nuance to them, which is probably instrumental in steering them away from being just another partition story and into the realm of metaphors and unexpected connections. And Manto's biggest speciality is his ability to see all sides of the story and say in no uncertain terms that look, this is what society is, this is how double standards work, this is the truth of human nature. He shows through his stories how humans can become rabid in the blink of an eye, resorting to bloodshed even, if their beliefs are as much as questioned. But even as he speaks of all this, he does have a compassionate understanding of mental health and the effect that events can have on the human psyche. And stories like Toba Tek Singh and Khol Do had me crying, bawling, and they broke my heart with what they were talking about, and I became an instant Manto fan. Highly recommend Manto. Next is Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado, and this is Carmen Maria Machado's debut, and I thought that it had a nice mix of science fiction, fantasy, magical realism and horror. These short stories have a woman at the center of each of them, and each story more absurd or thought-provoking than the next, or better even, both. The author talks about these women and their lives with a supernatural twist, be it exploring a woman's sexuality in a dystopian world or writing about a woman writer discovering things about herself and about writing in general, and so much more. It can be a tedious collection to read and exhausting because of the topics it deals with, and it will take time for you to get through because a woman's everyday life is not easy, especially because of the sexism and misogyny that we live with and deal with even in this time and age. And when it comes to the lives of queer women, things get even more complicated. But the author has dealt with this fabulously well. I mean, it does meander a little and it is a little cryptic at times, but it is well worth it. And yet this is a book that you should go into with all your senses, give it your all, invest yourself in it. You need to concentrate if you want to understand what the author is talking about. But do read this collection because it is powerful, it is impactful, and sometimes it is horrifyingly realistic. Next is Boats on Land, a collection of short stories by Janice Pariyat. This was my first foray into this author's works, and Boats on Land is a collection of short stories that is set in and around Shillong and delves into the legends, the myths, the realities and the lives in the city. It is beautifully poetic and sometimes angsty, but it will keep you invested in a way that is rather inexplicable. I cannot put my finger on it. And this was apparently her first book, and reading the clarity and the surety that runs through these stories filled me with awe at her talent and the passionate way in which she writes. The stories are open-ended and sometimes won't give you the closure that you're looking for, and that may annoy you, but this is intentional because the author writes about people's lives and how the way people live their lives doesn't have to make sense to us for them to be valuable. And as you read these stories, you'll feel like your mind is a boat on land rocking from side to side with no purchase. But that is what makes these stories so amazing. They make you think long after you've turned the last page. Again, highly recommend. Next is Circus, Folk and Village Freaks by Aparna Upadhyay Sanyal. This is a collection of short stories written in couplets accompanied with beautiful illustrations, and each of these 18 beautifully crafted short stories has a lesson to teach you. Each of these stories is intertwined with a central thread, and it tells us about a person who is considered a village freak and how their life turned out. Some end up finding acceptance by working in a circus, a place where social freaks are welcomed, and some end up living a different lifestyle, each appropriate to what they want to do. Every story packs a punch that you won't see coming and has its own morality lessons wrapped up in beautiful writing, and that is exactly this collection's USP. These are stories of reality translated into fiction, exposing the hypocrisy and the invasive nature of society while holding on to the hope of what could be. There's a lot of emotions and traits explored, including selfishness and love and companionship and obscurity and joy and debilitating sorrows, self-love and so much more. Some are uplifting, some are grim, some are heartbreaking, but the one common thread that connects all of these stories is that they will melt your heart either way. Next is 12 Red Herrings by Jeffrey Archer, and each of these short stories has a red herring. It has an unexpected plot twist, and we know that Jeffrey Archer is a master of unexpected plot twists, and I've read so many of his books and his short stories always leave a smile on my face because it was not what I saw coming. I did not see that coming. And these stories are intriguing, they are captivating, they will keep you invested, and they are quick reads as well. So if you are looking to start with Jeffrey Archer's works, I would recommend reading his short story collections, specifically 12 Red Herrings. He also has another one, I think it's called Cat o' Nine Tails, but I liked 12 Red Herrings more than I did that, which is why 12 Red Herrings is on this list. Read it, it's fabulous, and it will bring that adrenaline rush through you. Next is Your Utopia by Bora Chung and translated into English by Anton Her, and I'd heard of Bora Chung's works before and they were amazing things too. Your Utopia is a collection of short stories ranging from science fiction to horror to a combination of both, from one about a Center for Immortality Research to one about an AI wife and so much more. There is a lot of feeling in these stories, but like I always mentioned, AI taking a human's place always icks me out in so many ways, but there is a lot of history and supernatural to it, and I enjoyed the book while I was going. It's a great short story collection, intriguing, engaging and gripping, even though I thought that a couple of the stories towards the end were not that great. But the author did round this collection off with a bang, and I really did enjoy reading these stories, so I am going to recommend them to you, especially if you like science fiction. Next is a non-fiction collection, one that you've seen me talk about and absolutely love, and that is We Are the Quarry, Fate is the Hunter by Prasad and Shubhada Godbole. I've done a video review for this book. If you'd like to go check that out, link will be here as well as in the description box below. This is a collection of 25 anecdotes from Prasad and Shubhada Godbole, an ex-sailor couple who have traveled the world and who in this book have shared their varied experiences, be it their scary experiences at sea, or the exciting and wacky ones, or the ones that brought tears to my eyes because of how heartfelt they were. This is a homely, warm book from a warm, friendly couple, and it is a peek into their life, their jobs, their life together, their daughter. Love shines from every page of this book, because it's obvious that Prasad and Shubhada love what they did and love what they do in the way they talk about it. And couple all of this with the words of wisdom and the witty experts that are scattered throughout the book, and you have a collection that you will want to read over and over and over again. I'm now a huge fan. Next is Roman Stories by Jhumpa Lahiri. Okay, to be honest, this is not my favorite Jhumpa Lahiri, and not all the stories in this collection worked for me, but I'm adding it to this list just because I wanted to recommend to you the ones that did work for me. I obviously won't mention which they are, but I'm hoping that you will find some that will work for you and that you will end up loving. Jhumpa Lahiri in this book centers people in Rome who feel that pang of unbelonging because other people just won't let it go. She writes of feelings that could be universal or specific depending on how you see it. The beauty of Jhumpa Lahiri's writing is that she's stark and vague in her writing, all wrapped up in the most beautiful of words and using metaphors that anyone other than Jhumpa Lahiri would never think to use. But having said that, there is something missing in them. There's a quick stumble of sorts. The collection starts off beautifully, it flags in the middle before picking up in the last couple of stories. See, I wouldn't recommend this to be your first Jhumpa Lahiri book, but I would definitely recommend that you read it once you've read a few of her previous notable works. So those were my short story collection book recommendations for you. What did you think of this video? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Have you read any of these short story collections? Do you read short story collections? Which ones are your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.